So today we're going to be reacting to another mock draft from Bleacher Report. So you guys know the last mock draft Bleacher Report put out, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. So let's see how Bleacher Report does this time. Okay, so first, I just want to say shout out to the graphic once again, because the Bleacher Report graphics always they do look really nice. This little format they have, this is really cool. I ain't gonna lie, probably gonna steal it, but it is what it is. At number one, the Washington Wizards take Cooper Flagg. Once again, I've always been a guy that said Cooper Flagg has always been my number one prospect to me. I just think some of the things that he has that transfers over to the NBA level at an extremely high rate, the defense, the rebounding, the intensity, the hustle plays that he makes. He also adds a really solid ball handling level to his game that I really like. The jump shot is a little inconsistent and he is a little inefficient around the rim, but I do think it will get better once he does have somebody that can create for him. I don't know on the Wizards, maybe it's Jordan Poole, maybe it's not, but who knows? But I do think Cooper Flagg is going to be the number one pick in the draft. As for the number two pick, the New Orleans Pelicans get Dylan Harper. I think this is perfect. I think the New Orleans Pelicans are really starting to build a team that's centered around Zion Williamson and his skill sets. Zion Williamson has also been really good this season, and he's also went down to his lowest weight since he's been in the NBA, so that's really good. Now, all we have to do is bank on the injuries. Now, if he can have another healthy season like he had last season, we could be moving towards somewhere with a potential starting lineup of Dylan Harper, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson, and Yves Missi. I think Dylan Harper brings that scoring. I also think he could play off ball. I think Dylan Harper has a very underrated off ball game to where he can catch and shoot. He can have inbound plays made for him. He can come off, he can shoot off motion. He can attack closeouts, off and off ball catch. I think all that could work really well, and I think him and Zion in a pick and roll could be also very dangerous, and him and Yves Missi can be really dangerous in a pick and roll as well. So I really like this. At number three, the Utah Jazz are going to be taking Ace Bailey. Now, at first, I was like, I don't know if I love Ace Bailey in Utah just because of the ball handling aspect, but Isaiah Collier has been playing really well over the past, I would say, 10 to 15 games. He's averaged about 9 to 10 assists in his past 10 to 15 games, which is really solid. The rim pressure that he always puts on the rim is something that I thought was intriguing for him as a prospect last year, and now the playmaking that he's doing out of that, and I think Ace Bailey can complement that really well. On top of him playing next to Lauri Markkanen, which I think he can learn a lot. And I do think he can be a really good defender at the NBA level. So you pair him, Walker Kessler, and Isaiah Collier. Now you're really building something. And I think Ace Bailey is really, really underrated because a lot of people look at his ball handling. Once again, I say this all the time. With Ace Bailey. So I'm going to try and keep it short this time because I've already made my opinions on Ace Bailey and I've already made my takes about him. And if you guys are regulars at this channel, you guys have heard them. I think Ace Bailey's ball handling is something that can be taught. Something that is not able to be taught is 6'10", 200 pounds, extremely athletic, extremely good in transition, really good tough shot making ability, really good off ball play. I also do think when he does get a step at the rim, he's really good at adjusting his angle to the rim when he does meet the help defense at the rim, whether it's hop stepping, euro stepping, changing his angles around the rim. I do think that stuff is really good. I do think he has really good counters to when he does get beat to his spots like post fadeaways and things of that nature. But I do think the ball handling is going to get better. So I am really still high on Ace Bailey, and I think he could really be something in this league. Up next, the Charlotte Hornets take VJ Edgecombe. Once again, I think this is a perfect pick. You take VJ Edgecombe here, and you have the on-ball defense, the transition play, the shot creating, the pick and roll ball handling that I think he's really good at. I would like to see him up his playmaking just a little bit. I don't necessarily know how real his jump shot is, although he has been really good from three over the past stretch of games. I would still like to see it in the NBA and at the NBA level, but I do think his defense is going to translate, and I think his transition is going to translate. His transition play is going to translate, which is something that is going to pair really well with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Ingram or Brandon Miller because they do get out and transition a lot. So I think VJ Edgecombe is perfect here. So far, 4 for 4, and the Toronto Raptors taking Kaman Malak. Once again, I think Kaman Malak is starting to become one of the most underrated players in this draft, even though he's at number 5, which is kind of crazy. But I think Kaman Malak has major upside, and I think him and Scotty Barnes as a defensive front court is phenomenal. Kaman Malak and Duke, they do a lot of switching, and Kaman Malak is really closed out and switched on the guards. He runs like a heavy he's just roaming all over the floor, whether it's on the perimeter, whether it's on the low post, whether it's in the dunker spot, whether it's just manning the middle and being the rim protector that he is really known to be. He's a really solid, versatile defensive center. So if you have a 7'2", 250 pound big that can really switch and defend out in the perimeter. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be able to guard guards in the NBA from day one, but he shows a step ahead from any other big in this draft. So I think he's undoubtedly the best big in this draft. I do love his fit with Toronto, and Toronto's really building something. Next year, they can go into the season with a starting lineup of Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, and Kaman Malak. Who knows? With the Eastern Conference, that might just be a play-in team. It might just be a play-in team. Up next, the Philadelphia 76ers take Trey Johnson. They are slated to have the number 6 pick. I don't hate this. Well, no, I kind of do, because Philly already does have a lot of guards with Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey. I don't necessarily think Trey Johnson can play the 3, but there are some things that I do really like about Trey Johnson's game. But once again, there are still some things that question me. Hey, where's his finger? Do y'all see that? Where's his finger? Maybe it's just the picture, or maybe that's just this, I don't know. That's a weird picture. That is a weird picture, but it is what it is. I think Trey Johnson's a really good shot maker. I do really think he's great off ball. I think his efficiency from the 3 has been really solid. I do think he has an underrated in-between game and an underrated post game, and he's an underrated playmaker. I see some of the reads that he does make, and I do think there is a level to where he can be a secondary ball handler, somebody that may be able to handle the ball when the lead ball handler's on the bench. So a lot of upside. I just don't know if I love it for Philadelphia. I don't know if I love it. Up next, and then I don't think he should be taking over Kasparas Jakučionis, because I do believe Kasparas Jakučionis is the better off-ball player. He's the better ball handler, and he's the better playmaker. But Brooklyn getting Kasparas, I think Kasparas still has a lot of upside. I do think he's a liability on defense. I do think that sometimes he can dribble himself into some trouble, just dribbling into double teams a little bit too much, holding onto the ball a little bit too long. But I do think Brooklyn, if they do fall out of the top 5 or top 8, probably with how much they've been winning games, this is probably the best scenario for them, especially since this year was supposed to be the year they were supposed to be at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, and now they're just winning games, which I just think is not smart. Like, okay, Jordy, we get you're a good coach, but holy shit, bro. Holy shit. Up next, the Chicago Bulls take Asa Noel. I actually like this. I like this. Now, do I think he's a starting 5 in the NBA immediately? No. Do I think he's a really good 4? Yes. I think he could be a really good transition player. He shows a lot of signs as a floor spacer with his mid-range jump shot. He's a solid rebounder. He can be a very solid help side rim protector, especially since it looks like you're probably not going to be trading Vucevic. He could be a good pick and pop candidate. He could be a good pick and roll candidate. All those things are very intriguing with Asa Noel, and I think he's a really good pick to start this rebuild in Chicago. Up next, the Portland Trailblazers will be taking Kon Knippel, some outside floor spacing, which I think is really good. He has a really quick release, which I think is solid as well. He shows some signs to be an on-ball creator as well, but the three-point shooting is what's most intriguing, and I think Portland can really use that. I would rather them take Liam McNeely, because I think Liam McNeely is just the better player, but Liam McNeely has been out for a while and he just returned, but I think Liam McNeely is going to end up being the better player, but who cares? Jace Richardson with the 10th pick. I don't love this just because, one, see, we're starting. We're starting. I really don't like this pick. Jason Richardson is a 6'3" guard. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with Jace Richardson as a player. It's just, one, I don't see the value in taking Jace Richardson number 10. I really don't see the value of the Spurs getting him at number 10, given the fact that you have Stephon Castle, you just traded for De'Aaron Fox, you still have Devin Vassell. Now you're going to add another undersized guard. I don't love that. I don't love that pick. But I do like this pick for Liam McNeely, some floor spacing. I really like that. I think if in this position, I think Liam McNeely would thrive. I think he's a very solid team defender. I think he's a great shooter. He shows some signs as being an on-ball creator, just being able to attack closeouts and really put pressure on the rim. Now, I'm not asking him to go on the ISO and really cook a defender 101, but if teams are going to be over aggressive on the closeout, he can drive past them, and if they're going to be lazy, he can shoot over them. This is something I really like with Liam McNeely, and plus he's 6'8", so I really like that pick. Houston taking Ben Seraph here. I don't hate it. Don't get me wrong. With the film I have watched of Ben Seraph, he's a really left-hand dominant guard who leans on a lot of mid-ranges, who isn't really shooting the best from mid-range. I do really like the potential of him being a secondary creator and a secondary pick and roll threat, and somebody that could be a really good pull-up shooter, whether it's from mid-range or the three-point line. But once again, he does lean on a lot of mid-range shots, which would be inefficient in the NBA, and he doesn't really make a lot of them as well. So this could be a guy that just has a really tough shot diet and doesn't really create rim pressure the greatest. His jump shot is kind of slow. I was really high on Ben Seraph a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago too, but it's just like now I just don't necessarily love him being a starting point guard. I would definitely bank on a little bit of more three-point shooting if I'm Houston, even if it's getting Jeremiah Fears or something of that level. Okay, with the 13th pick, the Atlanta Hawks take Colin Murray-Boyles. This is a really solid pickup. I don't necessarily know how much he's going to be able to fit in because Jalen Johnson and Zachary Risacher are probably the wings for the future, but I do think he has a lot of potential as a defender, a wing defender, post defender. He's really strong, 6'7", has really good hands, has moves really good on his feet as a perimeter defender and an isolation defender. Only problems with me is he's a limited ball handler and he doesn't really shoot the ball well, and I don't know how many post touches he's going to be able to get against the Atlanta Hawks. So once again, maybe I'll just watch a little bit more film on him, get a little bit of a better feel of his game. But as far as what I've seen from him, the defense shows up immediately. The defense shows up immediately. I think his defensive game is going to translate really well, but the offensive game, you don't want him to be like a 6'6", 6'7" center, but like, who knows? Who knows? Maybe that jump shot really grows, and playing with Trae Young can really elevate you as an offensive player. So hopefully in this position, he'll be able to do that, but I just don't know how many minutes he's really going to be able to play because he's not going to be like necessarily a priority in the wing rotation as of right now. Up next, I really do like this fit. Jeremiah Fears to the Miami Heat. I don't know if he falls all the way to 14, and I don't know if Derek Queen falls out of the lottery, but who knows? You know, I have some real issues with Derek Queen, and maybe the Bleacher Report mock draft is appreciating that, but Jeremiah Fears to the Miami Heat, really good shooter, really good ball creator, somebody that can create separation in the isolation to in a pick and roll setting or just in a half court setting. I feel like he does that pretty well. I would like to see him create a little bit more separation downhill, but with his shiftiness and his ball handle, he can always create open shots for himself on the perimeter, which is something you're really going to need in Miami. Miami has not been playing good ever since trading Jimmy Butler. On top of that, and I would say Kel'el Ware, Tyler Hero, Jeremiah Fears, Bam Adebayo, Andrew Wiggins. That's a solid playoff team in the Eastern Conference. And I think Jeremiah Fears would really be able to thrive in Miami. So he should be something nice. OKC takes Noah Penda. Noah Penda is a really good wing. Very versatile, very athletic, solid shooter, can play multiple positions, can guard multiple positions as well. This is one of those guys where OKC is just like, you know what, let's go get a guy with some high potential to be somebody that can fill a role, fill any role. I think he's 6'9", 6'10". He'll be able to play the 4 to the 2, you know, with his transition play and his spot up shooting and cutting to the basket and being an active rebounder. Things like that OKC may need, maybe a little bit more size on the perimeter, because OKC, they do have a lot of really good defenders, but they're not that big. And I think Noah Penda adds. This is not Noah Penda. This is Noah Essengay. So let me switch my entire analysis. I'm not even gonna edit that out. Y'all are gonna see it. Anyway, Noah Essengay. I mean, Noah Penda and Noah Essengay aren't necessarily so different to where it's like a big difference. I think Noah Essengay does a lot of things well. I don't necessarily think he's a floor spacer, but I do think he plays in transition well. I think he does show a lot of signs as a defender and as a transition player and as a rebounder, to where he can sit a few years or maybe a year or two and find his way into the rotation being 6'9". You know, I think he'd be a very versatile defensive player. So this is a really good pick for OKC. To be honest, OKC's in a position where it's like, we're just going to draft upside because they're not going to play immediately anyway. So who cares? As for the Orlando Magic, they're going to be taking Derek Queen. I don't like this. And this is not even like on Bleacher Report. I just don't like this fit. I think Derek Queen is a really good player, but I really think he's teetering around the lines of being one of those unique bigs that's not that portable. And it's like, if you have that tag already, then it's like, and I heard someone say, I think it was the coach of Maryland, they said if Derek Queen was white and European, he'd be the first pick in the draft. And that's the problem. You are pointing at the exact problem, because it kind of like really kills two birds with one stone. Because if you look at it, when people go to draft, or when people do their draft analysis, they really value the ceiling of players compared to their floor. But it's like, how many prospects in a draft really hit their ceiling? If you guys get what I'm saying. Like, I can see a world where Derek Queen could be a really solid player with his back to the basket, could be really good in the isolation, could be a really good floor general, could be a really solid floor spacer. But I also see a world where he's short. He's not short, but he's a short big. He doesn't really move the best on his feet. He's not the greatest defender or rim protector. And the way he just commands offense is very inefficient by trying to size up other players on the perimeter and just trying to create that way in isolation, and having the offense ran through a player that's just extremely inefficient and is not a really plus offensive player. So once again, it's like, how many players really hit their ceiling in the draft? That's the one thing. I think the ceiling of Derek Queen is very, very high, but once again, I do think his floor is very, very low, because we see centers like Alperen Sengun and Domantas Sabonis, who are really unique centers and have to have the offense cater to them and their inabilities, like, drastically. That's why there's not a lot of teams where you can trade Domantas Sabonis to. And that's why the Kings are in such a tough situation, because where can you really trade Domantas Sabonis to? That's the one thing. And the second thing is, people see a center that can make a couple of nice passes and they compare him to Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic, in my opinion, is the greatest offensive player of all time. So once again, they did it with Sabonis. They do it with Alperen Sengun. If you are a solid playmaker at the big position, you're immediately going to get compared to Nikola Jokic. I don't get why people do that shit. I don't get. So if Derek Queen was white and European, he'd still be right inside the lottery for me. And that, once again, Derek Queen, there's a world where he becomes a really good player, and I can see that world. But once again, I don't think people nearly value or nearly really take into consideration what the floor of a player is. Derek Queen is one of those players where it's like, you can take the swing, and if you hit, it looks amazing. But if you miss, it could be really bad. It could be really bad. Now, not to be negative, but it's like, if we look at the positives of Derek Queen, he's a really good finisher around the rim. He plays through physicality well. I think he's a really good rebounder, and he does show signs as a playmaker. But do you see him being a guy that can play off of a Paolo or a Franz, especially with limited floor spacing? I don't think Derek Queen is somebody at the ball handler level to where he can be able to counter double teams the way somebody could in the NBA, or be able to just pass out of double teams immediately like he could in the NBA. And he's not the floor spacers that Orlando needs. So once again, and off the top of my head, there are other shooters in this draft. Anyway, let's just stay right here. I don't love this fit. I really don't love this fit. But once again, I don't necessarily love a lot of fits for Derek Queen. So it's like, for a team, maybe it's just like, maybe we can nip some of these in the bud early and try and get him to really be a traditional center and have that playmaking ability and that strength and physicality and rebounding that he already has, and maybe just get him to be able to be a playoff big, like not playoff as in postseason, but play off of our star type of big. And maybe he can become that, but right now, I don't know. I don't know with Derek Queen. Anyway, up next, the Utah Jazz take Nolan Traore. This is a swing pick. I don't hate it. I think Nolan Traore has been very hard to defend. I see the upside with Nolan Traore. I really do. I think his first step is really fast. I do think there's a world where he can create constant rim pressure as a guard. And once again, that's always intriguing, the way he's able to split blitzes and play in the pick and roll. But just the thing is, he can't make a jump shot right now. He doesn't really finish around the rim well, and he's not a good defender. But if you're going to be able to put rim pressure around the rim tremendously, and you can be able to play make out of that, you have a base. You have a base of what we can build on. You know, some guys come into the draft and they're blank canvases. Some guys come into the draft and we know what they're going to be from day one, and we probably know what they're going to be throughout their career. I think Nolan Traore has that base to where, you know what, we have a foundation here. We got some planks down. You know, we have something we can build on. But once again, it's just like, you got Isaiah Collier. I don't think necessary right now is the best time to try and get another guard that needs a lot of work. Up next, the Dallas Mavericks are going to be taking Jaeger Demon. This is not the pick I would have went with. I think there's a guy in the name of Cam Jones from Marquette who Dallas really needs to be looking at. This is a team in Dallas who just made their championship window extremely small. Cam Jones is a senior. He's played a lot of basketball. He's played a lot of high-level basketball. He's a very good ball handler and shot creator, somebody that can get to the mid-range, somebody that can play make. This just another guy that can be able to handle the ball at a high enough level that you can keep on the floor. Because we've seen with Dallas, and one of the biggest critiques we have with Dallas is just them not having enough creation for all the guys that depend on that creation on their team. Anthony Davis is a phenomenal player, but he's also a really good play finisher. Whether it's pick and pops, pick and dives, whether it's just cutting to the basket or being that offensive rebounding type of player. Anthony Davis thrives off somebody else being able to create for him. Who else does that? Derek Lively. Who else does that? Daniel Gafford. Who else does that? Klay Thompson. Who else does that? PJ Washington. Who else does that? Najee Marshall. I just don't think Jaeger Demon is at that level to be that ball handler that you need. I don't think the shooting is the problem. Max Christie is a solid shooter. Klay Thompson is a solid shooter. He's been streaky this season, but he's been a solid shooter. PJ Washington is a solid shooter. Kyrie Irving is a solid shooter. So it's like, I don't think Jaeger Demon is going to come in and be some secondary ball handler just yet. Maybe sooner or later he will become that. But I don't think you're really gaining anything off of his shooting with his lack of ball handling, which is what you really need right now. So once again, I think Cam Jones would have been the guy. The Minnesota Timberwolves take Thomas Sorber. You know what? I really like this. Now, he's not going to start next year. But one thing that I really, really, really value in Thomas Sorber's game is, one, he's a really good drop defender at his age. He defends the rim without fouling. Sometimes I even want him to be a little bit more aggressive when he's putting his hands up and he's really like contesting the rim, because when he goes up and he defends the rim, he doesn't swipe down at the ball. He doesn't like make it obvious for the refs to call anything. He just puts his hands up. He goes straight up. Another thing, very, very, very tenacious rebounder. Somebody that's going to be extremely physical off the ball. Somebody that's going to command fouls. And what I mean by commanding fouls is he's going to be so physical and players are going to have to be playing through that. Sometimes it's just going to get guys in foul trouble. And him playing behind arguably the greatest drop coverage defender in NBA history, when he already has a lot of signs of being a really good drop defender. I love this. Hey, Mars, if you're watching this, You ruined my video. You're ruining my video, bud. You're ruining my video. It's midnight. Go to bed. Why am I up? Who cares? Anyway, up next, with the 20th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder take Will Riley. This is very high. I wouldn't be surprised if Will Riley stays another year. Wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, up next, the Brooklyn Nets take Carter Bryant. Swing pick. I don't hate it. The Indiana Pacers take Rasheer Fleming. This is kind of repetitive with Jarace Walker, but I think Rasheer Fleming is an athlete and he brings some defensive upside, and that's what the Pacers need. They need defense more than anything. Wow, Brooklyn's taking Isaiah Evans. First, Will Riley. Will Riley wasn't as crazy as Isaiah Evans. I don't think Isaiah Evans comes to this draft. I don't think he comes out of this draft. Am I missing something, chat? He hasn't played much. He hasn't played like much. So it's like, I don't know. Once again, maybe I'm missing something, but I just don't think he comes out this draft. The Atlanta Hawks take Noah Penda. That's a really good pick. Who did they take earlier? Didn't they take another forward earlier? Who did they take? They took somebody. Who did they take? I mean, obviously they took somebody. They took Colin Murray Boyles. Yeah, they don't need another forward. Go get a big. Thomas Sorbo would have been great, but it is what it is. Yeah, I don't necessarily love everything I said about Noah Penda can apply now. I've already spoken about Noah Penda. Hugo Gonzalez with Washington. I think Hugo Gonzalez has a better chance of being what Ben Seraph is supposed to be. It's just he hasn't really gotten the play time in Real Madrid. So I think he has a lot of high upside, and if somebody manages to get him at the late 20 pick, I think it's going to be a really good pick. Up next, the Brooklyn Nets take Boogie Flan. Boogie Flan has potential to be really good. Him and Cam Thomas, oh my God, the shot chucking is going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. I think Boogie Flan does put good pressure on the rim. Now, getting to him to finish around the rim is a different story. I do think he's also really ball dominant as well. Sometimes he just shows no interest to move off the ball. He's a very energetic defender. Sometimes I think that's going to lead him to getting beat off ball, but on ball, he definitely can lock in for possessions and be serviceable. He is a little small. He is a little slim. So that's something that could be a defensive liability, but he's also somebody that can really show that type of effort defensively. So I'm not hating on it. Up next, there we go. This is the center I wanted the Magic to take. Danny Wolf. I'm telling you, if I'm one of these teams, I would take Danny Wolf with a lottery pick. I would take him with a lottery pick. Like, no cap. Like, and it's like he's a good team defender to the point where the Magic have the defense in Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Jonathan Isaac, KCP to really offset some of the weaknesses he may have on that end. Once again, he's still a serviceable team defender at the big man position. But when you have a guy that can space the floor in the way that Danny Wolf can, and that can also create on the perimeter like a wing, the opportunities are limitless. They're limitless. You know, you could put Jonathan Isaac in that dunker spot. You could play more big lineups. You know, I think Danny Wolf is going to be phenomenal. If he goes to the Orlando Magic, I think he's a starter by the All-Star break. 100%. Boston gets Nick Clifford. I don't hate that. If I was Boston, this is the guy I would probably trade up and get. Like, to be completely fair, Danny Wolf is 7 foot. He could stretch the floor. You're probably not going to re-sign Kristaps Porzingis. I probably would have went and got him, but Nick Clifford's the best player on the board right now. The Clippers take Cam Jones. Don't hate that at all. I kind of already spoke about Cam Jones. So, and with the 30th pick, the Phoenix Suns take Johnny Broome. Once again, wasn't the best draft. But they definitely did a lot better. Labyrinth Phelan fall into the second round. Not the biggest fan of that. Other than that, man, Miles Bird isn't even here, which is crazy. Dink Pate, yeah. This is definitely better than the last one. So that's definitely a start. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys like this type of content, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate everybody watching. I really appreciate everybody tuning in, liking, commenting, and subscribing. So if you guys want to see more draft content with me, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you let me know in the comments, what's the first scouting report that I should do? Yes, March is right around the corner. So we are going to be starting our scouting reports for the 2025 NBA draft. I've done a lot of film breakdowns. I've done some mock drafts. I've reacted to mock drafts. Now it's time to really get the scouting reports done. So once again, if you guys like this type of content, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And other than that, I will see you guys next time. Peace.